Containing the Ebola virus. There's an international scramble to do it. An update from the U.S. leads off this Tuesday's show. As of last night, Thomas Eric Duncan, the first person diagnosed in the U.S. with Ebola, was at a Texas hospital in critical condition. The state's governor, Rick Perry, wants the federal government to enhance its screening of travelers anywhere they might enter the U.S. Governor Perry wants quarantine stations installed, temperatures taken if Ebola exposure is suspected. It's unlikely that would have stopped Thomas Eric Duncan from entering America, though, because his symptoms reportedly didn't start until after he'd arrived. In a survey of American nurses released last week, most said their hospitals were not prepared for Ebola patients. Kyung La found a facility that says it is.
The first line of defense, if there is an Ebola outbreak in the United States, will be the nation's hospitals. So, do they have a plan? At this one, they do. The patient will most likely come into the emergency room. And what this hospital, the Los Angeles County USC Hospital here in Los Angeles, what they've put into place is essentially an action plan. The patient walks into the emergency room. You always check in. One of the first things they ask, if it looks like the patient has a fever, is sweating, is nauseous, maybe even vomiting, did you travel to West Africa? And there are signs all over this hospital saying that if you've traveled to West Africa in the last 3 weeks, you need to check if you have Ebola. So that kicks their action plan into place. They then transport that person to an isolation room. And it's exactly like what it sounds. You don't have contact with anyone except people who are prepared to deal with a patient who has Ebola. So what does a worker do before walking into the isolation room to deal with a potential Ebola case? They have to cover themselves from head to toe. They wear a mask. They cover their eyes. They wear a gown that is water impermeable so that no fluids can affect that hospital worker. They cover their feet and they cover their hands. And before they do any of that, they wash their hands for 15 seconds. Once they're in the isolation room, they have to mark when they enter. They also mark when they leave. That is the case for anyone who walks into that isolation room. They follow CDC guidelines. If the patient is very sick, they double glove, they double gown. They basically isolate everyone who comes in who is a suspected Ebola case. Has it happened yet here in California? No. Do they expect that it might? Possibly. And they say with this case in Dallas, this hospital has to be prepared.
See if you can ID me. I'm an award that was established in 1895 and first given in 1901. A name for the inventor of dynamite, and I'm awarded in several different fields, including medicine, physics, and peace. I'm the Nobel Prize, established by the will of Swedish chemist Alfred Nobel.
We're expecting the 2014 Nobel Prize winners to be announced all this week. At a ceremony in the Swedish capital of Stockholm yesterday, there were 3 winners named for the prize in physiology or medicine. Professors John O'Keefe, May-Britt Moser, and Edward Moser are all neuroscientists. They'll split the $1.2 million Nobel Award. They discovered brain cells that help us keep track of where we are and where we're going. It's kind of like a GPS built into our heads. It allows us to make repeat trips to previous places. And one reason why the discoveries are important, Alzheimer's research. People with Alzheimer's disease become lost more easily as parts of their brains break down. Understanding the brain's GPS could help scientists understand how these patients become disoriented. A few blocks away from the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C., there's a new memorial that was just dedicated earlier this week. It's called the American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial. It honors the ongoing sacrifices of those permanently injured in armed conflict. One of its co-founders was moved to action when she saw a veteran in a wheelchair struggling to lay flowers on another veteran's grave.
This is the first and only memorial that is designed to honor the living. There are no other memorials in Washington that honor the living individuals. We honor the living today of nearly 4 million disabled veterans, the countless millions that have gone before us, and unfortunately those who will come after us. The message is respect and be mindful of what the cost of freedom is, not only to those who who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, but to those who come home, wounded, injured, or otherwise disabled, the first day of their disability life begins when they come home from war, and it goes on for the rest of their life. And they have to deal with it every single day. The best form, as Washington said, of public justice is to honor them and take care of them.
To me, the flame is a direct reflection of that undying spirit of patriotism that they have when they don on the uniform, when they return home injured, disabled for life. That's what the flame represents. The sculpture, the bronze, the etchings on the glass panels is the voice of America talking to those who visit, the voice of disabled veterans, the voice of family members, and it's saying we should never forget.
From sea to shining sea is how you might characterize today's roll call in the northeastern state of Connecticut. Shout out to the Indians of Farmington High School. We found them in the town of Farmington. Next stop, Landisville, Pennsylvania. Great to see the Black Knights watching. Hello to Hempfield High School. And on the Pacific Coast in Woodinville, Washington, the Wolves are watching at Timbercrest Junior High. The best things in life may be free, but the electronic services we use are not. They may not require money, but as we've reported before, they mine our data. Facebook knows what we like. Google knows what we search. The Library of Congress is saving our tweets. What if everything around us was linked online? Think of the convenience, think of the lack of privacy.
The Internet of Things is when you take everything, thermostat, car, even a light bulb, and you just slap the internet on it. You wanted to use that fitness app to track how far you ran, that weight loss app to track how much fat you lost. How do you think that happens? You connected your shoes, and your weight scale, and your webcam to the web. The Internet of Things is all about embedding these tiny computer chips into everything we use. To work, they need sensors that record what's going on around them, say temperature, or light, or movement. Then they send the messages across Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to the internet using these itty-bitty antennae, which look like computer chips too. We take dumb devices and we make them smart. Every innovative company is working on this, from Whirlpool and LG to Ford and GM. We're entering a world in which every device talks. A pacemaker with Bluetooth can tell your hospital the second that you're having a heart attack. But wait a minute. That means every device is listening too, and that's where it gets creepy. If you're surrounded by connected devices, then your privacy starts disappearing. Anyone with access to your network knows exactly what you're doing. For better or for worse, those who use Gmail know that Google is reading your email. But are you going to be okay with GE knowing when you turn on the light? What about the government knowing every time you change the channel and what's supposed to be the privacy of your own home? And then there's hackers. If the code of these machines isn't written well, there's the potential for a hacker to turn on your oven when your kid's at home alone. But it's not all doom and gloom. The best case scenario is that we're going to get an environment that's absolutely seamless. But we better get this right, because if we don't, we're going to give up control and privacy, all for the sake of convenience.
Before we go, roads. They ain't just for driving anymore, they're for making music? That's America the Beautiful. It's played, so to speak, when your tires roll over specially cut grooves in the road on part of Route 66 through New Mexico. National Geographic paid to have this done. Its aim is to get drivers to slow down, as the tune is best heard at 45 miles per hour. Of course, they could have had it play On the Road Again, Life is a Highway, Red Dirt Road, Country Roads, Take Me Home, Get Your Kicks on Route 66. But with the drive to play something patriotic, why go down any other road? I'm going to hit the road, Jack. You guys have a great Tuesday.